Hello, welcome to the Flaming Hog Show. I'm your host, Charlotte Bannister, joined by Lauren Pizz and Anthony Brickman. First, we're going to be talking about today, we're going to discuss concussions within the NFL and if they're as big a deal as they should be. Lauren?
I absolutely think that concussions have become a really serious deal in football, and they don't really take it as seriously as they should. For example, the quarterback for the Rams, Case Keenum, was injured and wasn't taken out of the game, but yet that they said that he came over and said he was fine and everything. But if you look back at the play, he clearly wasn't. He was shooken up. And the crazy thing to me is that the past year, the NFL started a new rule for athletic trainers being used as spotters so they can be in the press box or on the field, and they're watching out specifically for that. And I don't understand quite why that they thought that was considered not, worthy of taking him out, because I think that was something he showed a lot of symptoms for that, and I think that they need to make that more of a big deal.
Yeah, I definitely agree. If you look at the play, as soon as his head gets slammed to the ground, he's holding his helmet. The offensive lineman picks him up by his arm, basically like he's a rag doll. And, the coaching staff, Jeff Fisher, said he didn't see what happened. But, you have team doctors, you have NFL independent doctors that are on the field, and it's something everyone missed. Something that I thought was interesting from the view is you can see Nick Foles, as soon as he goes down, he gets up, he gets ready to throw. So someone was aware, someone saw what happened to Case Keenum and knew that there was something wrong with him. That's why Nick Foles was getting on the sideline ready to go in. And, it's just a question of, did they care more about maybe, winning at the end of the game than his health?
Right. I think even having a few concussions myself, I think that it's overlooked a lot of the times because it's not something like a broken ankle where you can see what is being hurt, and people overlook that even though it's your brain going back and forth within your skull. Next, we're going to be talking about the NBA and NFL and if they should be able to go immediately to the pros or if they should be able to go to college first. Anthony, what do you have to think about that?
Something that's a misconception on this is the fact that you have to go to college. Technically, as far as the NFL goes, all you have to be is 3 years removed from high school. You don't technically have to play for like a Division I or NCAA football program. For basketball, you have to be at least 19 years old and 1 year removed from college. The system, as far as basketball is concerned, it's kind of led to this deal of one and done. And there's not, even though as big as one and done is, there's really only major schools like Kentucky, Duke, stuff like that that have programs that are basically one and done. Most players don't go through that.
I personally think that all high school level, I don't think they're ready for that, because you come straight out of school, you live with your parents, you live in an environment where you're around kids who honestly are not mature enough. And if you take those kids and send them straight to the pros, they're not going to know how to handle their money, they're not going to know how to handle that kind of lifestyle. And I believe personally that they need to go at least maybe two to 3 years in college to kind of see, because you're looking at 19-year-olds playing with 30-year-olds and in high 20s, and that's something that their bodies I don't believe are personally ready for that. And I think they need growth and development in a college level before that they get to that point.
I definitely agree with you, Pizzy. Definitely with putting in an 18-year-old with a big head, putting them into a sport where there's kids that have been in there for years and years, they're going to think that they're good enough, but their bodies aren't physically ready. I definitely have to agree with that. Next, we're going to be talking about recruiting nowadays, and do you think that violations are being held up to a higher standard, or what do you think recruiting is like today?
Well, one of the hard things to think about that is there are so many schools that the NCAA has to keep track of, and there are so many violations ranging from really minor to really big. And so the thing to keep in mind about that is it's really hard to keep a good eye out on every single school and every single unofficial recruiting visit, official recruiting visits, and all of these rules, because they differ between, so many different things.
Let's be honest, there are probably most schools that do these secret recruiting things. I mean, just look at Louisville and what they did just in October. It's a little ridiculous that they spent $10,000 just to bring in escorts and people like that just to try to get them. And that's not what it's like in college. And they need to realize that just because they do that kind of thing doesn't mean that is what it's going to be like for the rest of their lives. And the students that are coming in, the athletes, should also kind of be aware of that as well. And we've seen a lot of it, but there's a lot of undercover stuff I don't believe we've seen. And it's kind of scary knowing what we don't know about.
Right. I think compared to about 15, 20 years ago when all you got was a slap on the back of your head whenever you messed up and you did something that wasn't right, and now you can not be in the profession anymore as a coach if you get caught violating one of these rules. And I think that coaches are finding a lot of loopholes. I find that a lot of the times it's like alumni most of the time. I mean, sometimes if they want a player up here, they're going to have an alumni make sure that they get that kid's mom's a job. And so I think that, yes, the major rules aren't being broken, but I think coaches, even though they don't want to admit it, or maybe they do, they are finding loopholes, like having a business phone and then having a personal phone so they can contact recruits. But all right, well, Lauren, Anthony, thank you so much for joining me on the Flaming Hog Show. We'll see you next time.